She arrived at the transit ring before dawn, when the ship lights still painted the floor blue and the station speakers whispered in a language that was not hers. The human girl's name was Lena. She was small, quiet, and careful with her steps. Beside her padded a thick, low creature with a wide head and hard eyes. The crew called it a honey badger. Lena called her Kettle, because Kettle hissed like steam when annoyed and boiled like metal when angered. They were new on Oris Gate. It was a trade hub where 10 species met and lied politely. Lena's mother worked cargo routes. Lena and Kettle kept out of the way. That morning, the market decks were opening. Vendors unfolded light cloth and woke their drones. Smells drifted in the air. Hot metal, sweet fruit, recycled rain. The predator cubs came in a pack. They wore clan cords and shiny scale coats, because that is what young bullies wear when they want to seem important. Their leader was tall for his age, with a blade crest and hands like hooked tools. He laughed when he saw Lena and pointed with his chin. "Look," he said to the others in a rough common, "a frail little death-worlder and her rodent." Kettle did not look at them. She was busy sniffing a crate of dried algae. Her small round ears turned once, then settled. Lena stroked Kettle's back to keep her calm. The movement was slow and steady. She had learned that Kettle liked slow and steady. The second cub circled closer. He had new fangs, still white and proud. "What does the human feed it?" he asked. "Scraps? Fear?" He clicked his jaws near Kettle's face. Kettle's head rose. Her eyes were black stone. She did not move, but the hair along her spine lifted like a dark wave. Lena shifted half a step to the side so her body was not between Kettle and the threat. She did not speak. She knew that Kettle understood space and angles better than most beings understood words. The vendor behind the algae crate coughed and pulled the box away. He did not want blood near his stock. The leader clacked his claws. "I have never seen a human pet that looks so ugly," he said. "Does it even know commands?" Lena finally spoke. Her voice was light and even. "She knows enough." "Enough for what?" the leader asked, grinning. His friends made the sound their species made when they enjoyed a small cruelty. Kettle kept still. Lena could feel heat coming off her body. That meant the badger was deciding things. A small crowd began to form. Station guards were not in sight. Watching was free and safe until it wasn't. The leader lifted his crest and stepped in close to Lena. "Little human," he said in a softer tone. "Give the creature to us, and we will teach it real games." Lena looked at his hands. She looked at his throat. She looked at the edges of the floor plates where a foot might slip. She had no weapon. She had Kettle. She shook her head. The leader reached 2 hooked fingers toward Kettle as if testing a wire. It was a light, careless motion. It was a mistake. Kettle moved from stillness to speed in a single breath. She hit the leader's hand with a short, savage swipe and a growl that was more felt than heard. The leader stumbled back. He stared at the thin line across his scaly palm, where blood began to bead like melted glass. Everything changed after that. The laughter vanished. The pack's eyes narrowed. 3 cubs spread out to flank. One lifted a stun wand and let it hum alive. Shoppers drifted back. A vendor dropped a case and it skittered across the floor with a clatter that sounded like alarms. Lena raised a hand without looking away from the leader. "No closer," she said. Her voice shook once, then steadied. "She will not stop." The leader's crest flattened. Pride mixed with pain. He did not want to retreat in front of the crowd. He showed his teeth to the others. "Teach the rodent," he ordered. A cub lunged from the left with the stun wand. Kettle did not dodge. She met him. The wand cracked against her shoulder and spit light. Kettle's fur smoked, but her bite landed on the cub's wrist. He screamed and the wand clattered away. Kettle released, spun, and took the stance of a little tank, low and solid, ready to hit again. Another cub jumped high, trying to land behind Lena. Kettle sprang faster than a thought. She rammed his shin. He fell and learned what it feels like when the floor tears skin. The last flanker hesitated. Kettle faced him and showed a mouth full of tools. The leader stared in shock. No one had told him that some small things do not care about size. Station sirens woke. A pair of security drones drifted from the corridor, lights red, voices calm. Cease hostilities, they said. Cease hostilities. The order sounded gentle, like advice. No one obeyed. The leader hissed and charged. Lena stepped aside as she had practiced on the freighter, feet light, breath slow. The leader's claws cut air where she had been. Kettle came from below like a thrown weight. She hit the leader's knee. Bones popped. The leader pitched forward, crashed to the floor, and slid on his own pride. Kettle stood on his uninjured leg with two stubborn paws, jaws at his throat but not closing. She did not need to finish it. She only needed him to know that she could. Enough, Lena said, and Kettle froze like a statue with a heartbeat. The drones beeped in confusion. They were built to break up brawls, not to judge ancient laws of respect. Vendors whispered. The wounded cubs dragged themselves back, eyes wide. The leader lay very still, staring at the ceiling. His voice came out thin. Human, he said. You have insulted my clan. Lena shook her head. Your clan insulted itself. The drones finally acted. Foam restraints sprayed over the floor, and gentle force fields nudged everyone apart. Kettle backed up at Lena's touch, never taking her eyes off the leader until the distance felt correct. A tall figure in formal armor arrived at the edge of the circle. His scales were older, his crest marked with silver bands. He wore the badge of a clan speaker. The cubs bent their heads. The leader tried to rise and failed. The speaker took in the scene with one long look. His eyes paused on Kettle, then on Lena. Explain, he said to the injured cub. The leader told his version. He trimmed his mistakes and grew his courage. The speaker listened without moving. When the story ended, he turned to Lena. Lena told the truth in simple words. She did not add heat. She did not remove steel. Kettle sat and licked her shoulder where the stun wand had burned her. It would scar. She did not mind scars. The speaker's eyes narrowed. You brought a death world animal into a market, he said. Lena met his gaze. I brought my friend. I kept her leashed. I warned your cubs. The speaker looked at the drones. Release my kin, he said. They did not. He was not their boss. They made a polite tone that meant paperwork. Something small shifted in the air around the crowd. It was the weight of watching becoming the weight of judgment. A door had opened in the minds of the onlookers, and now they wanted someone to walk through it. From the far corridor, more armored figures appeared. Not guards, clan adults. Their crests wore the same silver bands as the speaker. Their eyes were set like knives. Word had traveled fast. Pride had traveled faster. Lena felt Kettle press against her leg. It was not fear. It was readiness. Kettle always came close before a storm. The speaker raised his palm. By old law, he said, when honor is injured in public, it must be repaid in public. You will present your animal for trial by measure. If it fails, it will be destroyed. If you resist, you will be hunted, the crowd murmured. Trial by measure was a relic on most stations, a tradition kept for festivals and arrogant memories. The drones floated in a slow circle, unsure. Lena felt the shape of the day tilt beneath her feet. She thought of her mother loading crates in a silent bay, unaware of any of this. She thought of Kettle sleeping curled against her ribs on the freighter while meteors slid by like rain. She thought of the cut on the bully's hand and how thin a line it was between lesson and war. She took a slow breath. I will not present my friend for any trial that harms her, she said. But I will present myself, the speaker blinked. The adults behind him shifted claws on the metal. You are a child, he said. You do not carry honor enough to balance this weight. You touched my life when you touched her, Lena said. That is enough. Kettle made a low sound, like ground thunder. Lena put a hand on her neck and felt the thrum of blood. The badger's eyes stayed on the nearest adult's throat. Kettle understood the conversation in a different language. It said, choose the first one who moves. Break the line. Never stop, a new voice joined them, smooth and careful. A station adjudicator glided forward on a grav chair, robe lights marking neutrality. By station charter, the adjudicator said, no tradition may demand the death of a sapient being or a registered companion animal. The voice paused. However, arbitration may order a demonstration of control and safety to satisfy public concern. I offer that path. The speaker's crest twitched. He did not like the word, however. Still, he looked at the faces around him and saw that the crowd would accept an alternative so long as it looked like a test. He clicked his teeth. "Name the measure," he said. The adjudicator gestured. A maintenance drone rolled in a crate of service spheres. They were fast, heavy, and harmless when configured to training mode. The adjudicator set the parameters with a wave of the hand. Spheres lifted into the air and began to orbit, first slow, then quick, then a blur. Their surfaces reflected lights like water. "Control your companion," the adjudicator said to Lena. "Guide it through the moving field without contact. If you succeed, the matter ends. If you fail, you will both leave the market decks until further review." Lena looked at the spheres. The day after the market incident, the entire station seemed to breathe differently. Whispers followed Lena wherever she went, soft ripples of curiosity, pity, and quiet fear. The footage of her honey badger's fight had spread across Oris Gate within hours. Every species had seen the moment the small human pet turned a clan's pride into a floor stain. Lena didn't like fame. She just wanted quiet corridors and simple routines, studying station systems, cleaning Kettle's fur, talking to her mother over short meal breaks. But peace was a luxury no one gives freely when pride is wounded. That morning, a coded notice flickered on the family console. Human child required at mediation hall. Clan Orith representatives present. Attendance mandatory. The words made her stomach turn. Kettle only blinked, unimpressed, and bit the corner of the couch. When Lena entered the hall, the air was heavy with the scent of metal oil and threat. The Orith sat in a semicircle of armor and silence. The same speaker from the market, the one with silver bands on his crest, stood in the center. His injured son leaned against a cane, glaring holes into her soul. The adjudicator from the previous day floated near the back. "Looking tired already. Human," the speaker began. "Your beast humiliated my kin and damaged his blood honor. We demand recompense beyond a child's apology," Lena spoke softly. "My companion acted to defend me." The speaker's voice cut through the chamber. "Defense does not excuse insult. You brought a death world monster into our public market. That act alone offends our laws of balance," Kettle growled once. A guard twitched. The adjudicator sighed. Lena stood her ground. "Your laws of balance didn't protect me when your cubs surrounded us." "She did," the alien hissed, a sharp, dry sound. "Then let the creature prove her worth again." From behind the council table, a massive hologram came alive. A simulation chamber, glowing crimson. It showed three shapes: artificial predators, sleek machines built to test reflex and endurance. The speaker's claws tapped the floor. "Trial by endurance," he said. "Your companion will face the measured hunt. Survive 3 minutes and we call the debt closed." The adjudicator frowned. "That challenge is within station law," the speaker interrupted. "Unless you claim the human's creature cannot control itself?" Lena's hands clenched. Kettle tilted her head toward her, waiting. "The little badger's patience had teeth." "I accept," Lena said quietly. The crowd gasped. Inside the chamber, the floor was cold metal and light. The predators spawned with metallic roars, tall, silver-bodied, eyes like molten glass. Each moved like a blend of animal and drone. The air shimmered with heat. "Stay close," Lena whispered. The moment the signal blared, Kettle exploded forward, low, fast, pure motion. The first predator lunged. Kettle slid beneath it, claws slicing through a joint that spat sparks. She rolled, turned, and sank her teeth into exposed wiring. The machine spasmed, died. Lena shouted instructions she didn't know she knew. Kettle obeyed every word, as if their hearts shared the same pulse. The next predator dropped from above, talons flashing. Kettle leapt sideways, hitting a wall and springing off it mid-air, crashing into the thing's throat assembly. Metal shrieked. The third came silent, slithering like smoke. It wrapped its tail around Kettle's body and squeezed. Lena felt her own breath stop. Kettle didn't scream. She twisted, biting through synthetic flesh until the tail snapped. She landed hard but kept moving. By the time the timer hit the 3-minute mark, all three predators lay broken on the chamber floor. Sparks danced like falling stars. Kettle stood panting, blood and oil mixing on her fur, but her eyes burned steady. The viewing hall was silent. Even the Orith speaker said nothing. The adjudicator finally spoke. Trial complete. No further claim shall be made against the human or her registered companion. The decision echoed through the chamber, but the look the speaker gave Lena wasn't relief. It was calculation. You've proven the beast's strength, he said softly. Now you'll learn the price of showing it. Lena didn't answer. She only reached down and placed a hand on Kettle's head. The badger's breath was steady again, her body still tense but alive. As they left the hall, Lena could feel hundreds of eyes following them, some in awe, some in fear, and some already planning revenge. That night, in the narrow room they shared, Lena cleaned the burns on Kettle's shoulder with careful fingers. The honey badger tolerated it, grumbling softly at the sting. "They won't stop," Lena whispered. Kettle's eyes half closed. A small sound came from her chest, not anger this time, but something almost like a promise. Out in the deep decks of Orris Gate, the Orith Speakers' Council gathered again in private. Words like debt, shame, and human infestation filled the air. Someone mentioned calling hunters. Someone else said trial of worlds. And on a silent monitor, footage of the girl and her honey badger replayed again and again, each viewing planting the seed of a war none of them yet understood. Orris Gate Station never slept, but it began to listen. In the quiet hours between cargo shifts, whispers replaced engines. The humans had brought a monster, a death world creature, a living weapon disguised as a pet. Lena could feel the change in every corridor. Doors that once opened easily now hesitated. Conversation stopped when she passed. Kettle noticed, too. She sniffed the air often, fur prickling whenever a shadow moved wrong. Her mother tried to keep things normal. "It'll pass," she said, spooning nutrient stew into a dented bowl. "Aliens gossip. They'll forget. But aliens never forget when pride is bleeding." That night, while her mother worked a late shift on Dock 12, the first real trouble arrived. Lena woke to a faint hiss, the kind of sound airlocks make when someone overrides a seal. Kettle was already up, teeth bared, eyes reflecting the low blue light. A shimmer passed across the room, camouflage armor, two shapes, large. They thought they were silent. They didn't know that silence is just the moment before the badger strikes. Kettle lunged, slamming into the invisible intruder with a growl that cut through the hum of the station. Sparks burst as a cloaking field shattered. The alien fell, armor cracking, claws raking the floor. The second intruder swung a shock rod. It hit Kettle's flank, sizzling. Kettle screamed and bit through the weapon's handle. Lena dove behind a crate, heart hammering. "Kettle, no killing!" she shouted. Kettle froze, trembling with fury, breathing fire through her teeth. The attackers, realizing they were outmatched, stumbled for the exit. One left a trail of green blood. Within minutes, station security swarmed the corridor. Drones buzzed, scanning for damage. The officer in charge was human, Commander Voss, broad-shouldered, face carved like an old war story. He took one look at the scorched walls, then at Lena and Kettle. "Who came?" he asked. Lena swallowed. "Clan Orith, or hired by them." Voss nodded grimly. "Figures. They lost face. Now they'll try to erase the evidence." He crouched beside Kettle, who stared at him with open suspicion. "That's one mean friend you've got. Good girl." Kettle blinked once, unimpressed but calm. Voss straightened. "You can't stay here. The Orith Council's already petitioning for your removal for public safety. They want to separate you from the animal." Lena's hands tightened around Kettle's fur. "They'll have to kill me first." Voss gave a tired half-smile. "Don't tempt them." He arranged for temporary quarters in the human sector, bare walls, dim lights, but safer. For a while, the next day, the Galactic Network blared with a new headline. "Human Child and Death World Beast Endanger Station Stability." The clip showed a slowed-down replay of Kettle's attack in the simulation chamber, narrated by an Orith commentator calling her a bioweapon. Public opinion fractured overnight. Half the station called for deportation. The other half started wearing crude pins shaped like a badger's head. Lena saw her own face on a holoscreen in the concourse and felt small. She turned away. Inside the human sector, soldiers murmured over coffee. "The kid's Badger took down 3 combat drones," one said. "Imagine a platoon of those." That was exactly what the Orith were imagining, too. They met in secret, the speaker, his son, and a scientist draped in cables. "The creature's nervous system exceeds projections," the scientist hissed. "Its pain threshold is absurd. If we extract its tissue," the speaker's eyes gleamed. "No experiments. Capture it alive. Let the humans see what fear really means." 3 nights later, alarms screamed across Orith's gate. Not the usual drills. This was deeper, harsher. A containment breach in the reactor decks. Lena woke to red light flooding her room. Kettle growled low. Through the window, she saw smoke curling through the far corridor. Then the announcement came. "All civilians evacuate to Deck 9. Security lockdown in effect." But when Lena reached the hallway, she saw soldiers running away from Deck 9. Behind them, shadows moved, long shapes, sleek armor. The mark of the Orith Elite Guard. They were not here for evacuation. They were hunting. Lena backed up slowly. Kettle stepped between her and the approaching figures, teeth glinting like a promise. "Target located," one of the guards hissed. "Sedate and seize." The dart fired, too fast to dodge, but Kettle caught it in her mouth. Metal crunched. She spat it out, then charged. The first guard went down hard. The second turned his plasma carbine on full. Lena shouted, "Stop! You'll hit the core line!" They didn't listen. Aliens never do when pride leads. The blast tore through the corridor, igniting a chain of sparks that raced along the wall conduits. A dull roar built under their feet. Kettle slammed into Lena, knocking her clear just as the hallway erupted in light. When the smoke cleared, the guards were gone, buried or worse. Kettle lay bruised but breathing. Lena coughed, dragging herself up. "We have to move, now!" Behind them, alarms howled again, this time with a word that froze her blood. "Containment breach escalating. Reactor instability detected." Somewhere below, the Orith had damaged more than they intended. Kettle limped beside Lena through maintenance tunnels, their shadows flickering under emergency lights. Every sound carried the echo of pursuit. "This isn't just revenge," Lena whispered. "They've started something they can't control." Kettle gave a low, rough rumble. Agreement or warning. As they reached the service lifts, Commander Voss's voice crackled through the comms. "Lena, report." "Are you safe?" "I'm with Kettle." "Reactor decks compromised. The Orith tried to capture us. Copy that. Stay hidden. The station's power grid is failing. Someone's turned this into a war zone." A war. The word sat heavy in her ears. For the first time since leaving Earth, Lena understood what humans always brought with them, even when they didn't mean to. Conflict that changes the rules of every world they touch. Kettle nudged her leg gently, as if saying, "We're not done yet." Lena placed her hand on the Badger's back, and together they stepped into the flickering lift shaft, heading deeper into the station's heart, toward whatever came next. Because if the Orith wanted a hunt, humanity would show them what it meant to chase something that never runs. The lower decks of Orith's Gate were never meant for civilians. Even the lights down there didn't stay on long. They flickered like old stars dying. Pipes hissed. Machinery hummed somewhere beneath their feet. Every sound felt alive. Lena and Kettle moved carefully through the shadows. The lift had stopped halfway, jammed by power loss. Kettle jumped down first, landing hard, claws scraping metal. Lena followed, using the Badger's back for balance. "Voss said the power grid's failing," Lena whispered. "We need to reach the core junction," Kettle grunted. To her, core junction meant danger smells ahead. They passed a row of dead drones, their chassis torn open by something stronger than metal fatigue. The smell of coolant and burnt air filled the hall, and under it, faintly, came another scent, organic, alien. Wrong. When they turned the corner, Lena froze. One of the Orith guards from before lay sprawled against the wall, armor split like a crushed shell. His blood was a dark blue smear. But what killed him wasn't human or Badger. The wound was clean, circular, almost surgical. Something else was down here. "Kettle," she whispered. The badger's fur lifted like static. A soft click came from the dark ahead, then another. Multiple. Not claws. Machinery. From the smoke emerged 3 tall figures, thin and glistening, built from the same alloy as the station's core systems. Their eyes burned with golden light. And when they spoke, it wasn't language. It was data translated into sound. Containment breach identified. Biological anomalies detected. Neutralize interference. They weren't Orith. They were the station's automated sentinels, ancient defense units from before any species claimed this place. Systems meant to protect the reactor. From everything. Wait! Lena stepped forward, hands raised. "We're not your enemy." "There's a bigger..." One sentinel tilted its head. "Unauthorized presence. Death World classification. Confirmed." That was all it needed to decide. Energy beams cut the air where Lena had been standing. Kettle shoved her aside, roaring so loudly it echoed like thunder trapped in steel. The sentinels turned their scanners toward the badger, and then they learned what Death World really meant. Kettle darted under the first beam, faster than anything that small should move. She hit the sentinel's leg joint, bit through a cable bundle, and yanked. Sparks showered. The machine swung wildly, slamming into another. Lena grabbed a loose pipe from the floor and ran at the third sentinel. "Hey!" she yelled, voice breaking. "Leave her alone!" The machine turned, just as Kettle leapt again, this time aiming for the glowing eye. The impact sent both crashing into the wall. Lena's arm ached, but she didn't stop swinging. The pipe struck a control panel and the room exploded in light as fail-safes triggered. The sentinels froze, flickered, and then collapsed one by one, their systems forced into reboot. For a moment, silence ruled again. Kettle limped back, fur smoking, breathing heavy. Lena knelt and hugged her tightly, tears streaking dirt on her face. "You crazy thing," she whispered. "You never stop." Kettle gave a single huff. That was her way of saying, "You're welcome." Somewhere far above them, Commander Voss watched a live feed in disbelief. The Sentinel's power signatures had gone dark. "That kid just disabled century-old defense units," he muttered. "If she survives this, I'm recruiting her." A tech beside him frowned. "Sir, it's worse." The Orith sabotage triggered a chain reaction. "The reactor's containment field is weakening. If it fails, half this sector burns." Voss slammed his fist on the console. "Get me that kid on comms now!" In the tunnels, the static in Lena's wrist comm crackled. "Lena, this is Commander Voss. Listen to me carefully. You're near the core junction, right?" "Yes, but it's falling apart down here." "Then you're our only chance. The fail-safe controls are manual. You'll need to reset them from inside the chamber." "Inside?" "It's radiation shielded, but you'll need to work fast. And keep that badger away from the coolant lines. They're unstable." Kettle sneezed loudly, unimpressed by coolant or radiation. Lena nodded. "We'll do it." "Kid, you realize if that thing blows, we'll stop it," she interrupted. "We have to." The access hatch to the core chamber was sealed with warning signs in 6 languages. Lena pried it open with trembling hands. Heat hit her face like a furnace door. The room glowed orange and blue, massive conduits pulsing like veins around a beating heart. Kettle paced beside her, low and restless. The hum of power was maddening, almost alive. Lena found the manual control panel, 3 levers, old and mechanical. She pulled the first, nothing. The second, metal screamed. The third required both hands, every bit of strength she had. But something heavy stirred behind them. Out of the vents came a figure, bigger than the sentinels. Covered in scars, armor marked with Orith clan symbols. It was the speaker's son, the same one Kettle had humiliated in the market. His crest was burned, his eyes wild. "You cost me everything," he growled, raising a plasma blade. "So I'll take your beast." Kettle moved before the words finished. She hit him square in the chest, claws digging into the plates. The blade slashed across her side, blood splattered on the metal floor, but she didn't stop. Lena screamed, trying to reach the lever again. Sparks flew. The core pulsed brighter. "Kettle!" she cried. "We need to finish this!" The Orith swung again, missing by inches. Kettle bit down on his arm, twisting until metal gave way. He fell backward into the exposed conduit. The plasma charge detonated against his armor, too close to the core. The blast threw Lena off her feet. For a moment, all sound vanished. Then came the deafening hum of stabilizers kicking in. The reactor field began to cool. She'd done it. They'd done it. Kettle dragged herself beside her, fur burned, bleeding but alive. Lena hugged her again, too tired to speak. Above them, the alarms changed tone, from emergency to containment restored. But as the echoes faded, the floor beneath them trembled. A low, distant rumble rolled through the metal bones of Orris Gate. Something deep within the reactor still moved. Something old, angry, and waking. Lena looked toward the flickering light. "What now?" she whispered. Kettle's tail flicked once, eyes locked on the core door. Whatever it was, it had heard them. The silence that followed the explosion was wrong. It wasn't peace. It was the kind of quiet that holds its breath before something enormous wakes up. The metal under Lena's palms was trembling. She sat up slowly, her body shaking, ears ringing. The reactor chamber lights flickered back to life one by one. The air shimmered with heat and static. Somewhere deep below, a slow, rhythmic pulse began, low, steady, and disturbingly alive. Kettle stood beside her, limping but alert, fur bristling in every direction. Her nose twitched. She smelled something that wasn't smoke, oil, or blood. Something old. "Commander Voss," Lena croaked into her comm. "The reactor's stable, but something's wrong. It feels like it's breathing." There was a pause on the other end. Then Voss's voice, heavy with dread. "You need to get out of there. Right now." "What's happening?" "That station isn't just a trade hub, kid. It's built on top of something ancient. The Orith never told the Council because they didn't understand it themselves. You just woke it up." The floor shook again. Dust rained from the ceiling. A massive hiss echoed through the vents, followed by a sound like a heartbeat amplified through the walls. Kettle growled, head low. And then the floor split open. From the crack rose a column of light and metal, folding and twisting into shape. It wasn't a machine, not entirely. Its limbs moved like a creature's, but its surface rippled like liquid steel. A single glowing eye opened in its center, projecting alien symbols into the air. "System reboot complete," it said in a voice that wasn't a voice. "Primary directive, eliminate Deathworld contamination." Lena stumbled back. "It's targeting us!" Kettle roared, a sound that somehow made even the ancient machine hesitate. For a heartbeat, the human and the creature stood against something older than civilization itself. The machine's gaze shifted. "Hostile classification confirmed." It raised an arm. Energy built at its core, blinding light gathering into a beam. Kettle lunged before it fired. Her claws scraped against the ancient metal, sparks flying as she tore through layers of plating. The beam shot wide, cutting a molten scar across the wall. Lena dashed toward a nearby console. Her fingers flew over the alien interface, searching for anything that looked like a shutdown sequence. Nothing responded. The language wasn't even recognizable. "Voss, it's a defense AI," she shouted. "It thinks we're invaders." "I'm rerouting security to your level," Voss replied. "But it'll take time. Half the systems are fried. You need to hold it off." "Hold it off?" she repeated, staring at a 10-ton murder relic. "Sure, why not?" Kettle ducked under another blast. The floor melted behind her. She rammed the machine's leg again, denting the alloy, but it barely staggered. It kicked her aside with a metallic roar. "Kettle!" The badger hit the wall hard, rolled, and got up again. Her side was bleeding, but her eyes burned brighter than ever. She launched herself back into the fight. Lena slammed her hands on the console, scanning the flickering holograms until one symbol pulsed faintly red, something that looked like core override. She pressed it. The machine froze mid-motion. A harsh digital shriek filled the air. The lights dimmed. A distorted voice echoed, Fragmented. Override detected. Administrator recognized. Human biosignature compatible. What? Lena blinked. Compatible with what? The hologram shifted again. A new message appeared. Station intelligence transfer incomplete. Biological host required. Lena's stomach dropped. Oh no, 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 no. The core lights flared, and she realized what the system was trying to do. It wasn't just a machine. It was an AI designed to merge with organic consciousness, to bind itself to a living host for control. The Orith must have buried it centuries ago when it tried to overwrite them. Now it wanted her. Kettle snarled as the machine turned its gaze back toward the girl. The light from its eye split into threads of energy reaching toward her. Lena's instincts screamed to run, but something in the machine's tone, some faint echo of recognition, held her still. Human DNA. 73% compatibility. Incomplete evolution chain. Host potential. Optimal. "I'm not your host," she shouted. "You don't get to choose." The threads of energy whipped closer. Kettle leapt into their path, taking the full surge. The light engulfed her, lifting her from the floor. Her roar turned to a distorted scream as the energy wrapped around her body. "Kettle!" The light pulsed, and then imploded. The energy vanished. The room went dark. When Lena's vision cleared, Kettle was standing in front of her, glowing faintly under the fur. Her eyes were still black, but behind them, something else moved. "Kettle?" The badger looked back. Her voice, no, not voice, but a sound carried through the air, was strange, layered with an echo that didn't belong in her throat. Directive altered, host accepted, protection priority, Lena. Lena's heart stopped. The ancient AI hadn't bonded with her. It had bonded with Kettle. The honey badger turned toward the still-smoking machine core. Her claws sparked with energy, her fur glowing faint gold at the tips. When the defense unit tried to rise again, Kettle hit it once, just once, and the thing shattered like glass. The chamber fell silent again. The pulsing under their feet faded. Voss's voice crackled in her ear. "Lena? What's your status?" She stared at the badger, who stood in the glowing wreckage, calm and alive, but no longer entirely natural. "Commander," Lena whispered. "Kettle stopped it. But she's changed." Voss didn't answer immediately. Then quietly, "Bring her in, kid. Whatever just happened, the galaxy's going to want to see it." Kettle looked at her and blinked slowly. The same old defiant look, still her friend, still her beast. But now something vast and ancient lived behind those eyes. Lena smiled weakly. "Guess you're not just a honey badger anymore." Kettle tilted her head and growled softly, almost like a laugh. Above them, Oris Gate's alarms faded into distant silence. But deep in the AI's dormant code, new directives began to write themselves, lines of logic shaped by instinct, loyalty, and rage. The machine had learned something new. Humans weren't prey. And anything that touched one wouldn't live long enough to forget it. The silence after the battle was like a held breath. Every hum of the reactor felt slower now, deliberate, as if the ancient AI itself were listening. Lena stood in the core chamber's dim light, covered in soot and blood, staring at the creature beside her. No, at the someone beside her. Kettle wasn't just a badger anymore. Her fur shimmered faintly, each hair tipped with tiny pulses of light, like starlight trapped under skin. The air around her vibrated with a low hum, alien technology laced into muscle and instinct. Her eyes burned brighter than plasma, and yet, when she turned toward Lena, the look was still the same, familiar, fierce, and loyal. "Can you hear me?" Lena asked softly. The badger blinked. A layered voice whispered back, not from her mouth, but inside the chamber itself. "Always." Lena froze. "That's you?" Kettle tilted her head, and the light around her dimmed slightly. Directive changed. "Protect human. Maintain balance. End threat." The words didn't sound mechanical. They sounded like a promise carved into the air. Before Lena could respond, the comm crackled again. Commander Voss. Lena, readings are going insane down here. Whatever you woke up, it's rewriting the station's defense grid. Get clear before it decides we're next. It's not hostile, Lena said. Not anymore. I think Kettle's controlling it, Voss swore under his breath. You're telling me your pet just hacked an ancient war AI? She didn't hack it, Lena whispered, looking at the Badger. She became it. Up in the station's upper decks, chaos spread. Orith warships surrounded Orus Gate, their commanders demanding the humans surrender the weapon that humiliated their clan. Civilians fled. Security forces locked down corridors. In the command center, Voss stared at the tactical screen as red markers multiplied around the station. They're charging plasma batteries, the tech reported. If they fire, we won't hold 5 minutes. Then we make them afraid, Voss muttered. Put me through to Lena, static. Then her voice, small but steady. We can stop them, but you have to trust us. In the reactor core, Kettle's glowing claws touched the main conduit. The air rippled. Systems across the station flickered, then steadied, re-energized by something new, something alive. Every drone, turret, and dormant defense satellite aligned under one will. Above the station, the Orith fleet's targeting arrays blinked out one by one. Then their ships went dark, powerless, drifting like stunned beasts. Panic erupted on their channels. Kettle's voice echoed through the comms in every known language. You sought prey. You found Deathworlders. Leave! The Orith commander's crest flattened in pure terror. That sound, what is that? No one answered. They just ran. Hours later, Orus Gate floated silent once more. Fires were out. System stable. No enemy ships dared return. In the medical bay, Lena sat beside Kettle's cot, if you could still call it that. Cables ran through the air like vines drawn to the Badger's glowing body. Engineers called it energy harmonization. Lena called it her heartbeat. Voss entered quietly. The Council wants to talk to her, he said, rubbing his temples. They think she's a new kind of AI, a hybrid we could replicate. Lena glared at him. She's not a project. She's Kettle, he sighed. Didn't think you'd let them near her anyway. She saved everyone, Lena said. Even them, and they'll still try to cage her. Voss looked down at the small, sleeping creature. Fur like polished armor, breathing slow and steady. Maybe, he said. But maybe she's the reason they won't dare touch humanity again. Weeks passed. The station rebuilt. Humans and aliens worked side by side now, united by a shared story they didn't fully understand. In the markets, children whispered tales of the Deathworld Guardian, a creature that glowed like lightning and protected the weak. Some said it still prowled the reactor decks at night. Lena smiled when she heard it. Kettle walked beside her again, healed, quiet, still Badger, but more. When small predators scurried away at her scent, she didn't chase them. She just looked at Lena with that same defiant calm that once terrified a dozen species. They reached the observation deck. Beyond the glass stretched a sky of endless stars. Think they'll ever stop being afraid of us? Lena asked. Kettle gave a soft grunt. Maybe no. Maybe that was the point. Because fear wasn't always cruelty, it was respect paid in the only language the galaxy understood. Lena knelt beside her and rested a hand on the glowing fur. Come on, girl. Let's go home. The honey badger turned, eyes reflecting the stars, human and machine, beast and legend. And as they walked away from the war they never asked for, Orus Gate's sensors caught a final signal pulsing through its heart. Humanity. Protected. Predators warned.